Hi, Dan here. There's been a couple of questions the last couple of weeks about how to do chases and stuff across some of the single channel elements that people have in their displays. A lot of those sort of things are like candy canes or little mini trees or something that are a single channel or some sort of other AC controlled thing. Um, Historically, Xlights has done a really good job with things like RGB and pixel-based stuff and doing chases across those. But now that we're expanding into a wider range of things, I just wanted to show people some of the options that we have. Uh, I've been working on my Halloween display, so I'm going to be demonstrating a little bit on my Halloween stuff. For what specifically what I'm going to do is my tombstones. I have 8 tombstones that kind of go across the front of my yard. So one of the goals is to get like chases across each of these. I'll bring up the properties for these. They are basically a single channel. I use magenta because I like how it appears on the screen, but for the most part, it's a single channel purplish type thing. You can kind of see it's a custom model that has a nice RAP written on it and stuff. And the first one, I think the first one starts at 52, and they're just ordered sequentially, and uh, they can just be a AC type thing. Mine are actually the tombstones from holidaycoro.com that I've kind of painted and kind of put some lights on and stuff like that. But it's relatively simple. That could be just anything to use. It could be single channel white or whatever. Um, so I'm going to show you a couple of options. So one way I've been seeing in the forums is people would actually create in their sequence. They would have a separate model for each tombstone. Gil has added the ability that you can kind of go down through. I'm actually just going to sequence with white so you can kind of see it easier. You can kind of go down, you can put an on effect, and I believe you can kind of generate a chase across them by doing something like that. Um, and you'll get a chase. You can kind of see them go. There's a rendering problem. You got to hit the render button. Uh, and if you kind of expand out each model, you can actually see that the data is there, and uh, that kind of works. The problem with this is that if you just have the model preview up, you don't see how the chase goes across the entire model. You actually would have to bring up the whole house thing and kind of click and play and see how it kind of goes across to get an idea. Uh, but it works. It's relatively simple. So that's one way of doing it. However, that's not the way I do it. My preference is actually these tombstone models that I have are basically for the layout only. I don't ever actually sequence any of these. Instead, what I have is a tombstones model, which I will bring up, which is not part of my display, so you don't see it in the full thing. It's a single line. I use a same single color custom with the same color just to make it look nicer. For me, I have 8 tombstones, so there's 8 strings. I only use 1 light per string. I'll mention that in a second. And then the start channel is the start channel of my first tombstone. If your tombstones or candy canes are scattered all over the place with different channel numbers, you can go do the individual channel numbers and type them all in or whatever. So these actually point to the exact same channels. If you remember, the first tombstone started at channel 52, so second tombstone is 53, etc. For appearance, I went in and made them nice and big, so a nice 18, and I'll explain why that's kind of important later. The rest of the stuff doesn't really matter a whole lot. And then I actually went through and named each one. Tombstone 1, Tombstone 2, Tombstone 3. I'll show you the importance of that for a minute, but this allows us to sequence things in a little bit different manner. So I have that model. So if I go back to my sequence, and I can bring up the display elements. Oops, other window. And we'll add the tombstones in. So that brings my tombstones model in, and I can like expand that out, and I can see the tombstones. This data here is the stuff that was rendered up here because it's pointing at the exact same channels, and the nodes displays the exact data. So if I draw this over there, it should move, type thing. So the information is there. Now what this allows us to do is you can actually select an area, and And let's just drop a single strand chase. And we can move it over. Um, you can kind of play with it and stuff. So you actually can do then just use the X-Lights effects across your entire set of tombstones. Now you don't get the same exact level control that you would have. Like if I didn't want this one to be exactly there, you can move that there. You don't get that. Um, but you do have, it does make it easier for certain things. Like if you want to do two chases across, you can do two, and you can kind of see them going. Very simple. If you wanted to see what it looks like to do right to left, you can flip it, or you can go from the middle where it kind of goes out. And this is where, because the tombstones are then all one model, you can kind of see down here a kind of idea of what it looks like. That's why I used the really big pixel sizes, so I can, instead of seeing little tiny dots going, I have little kind of squares. Um, yeah, it doesn't look like the exact tombstones, but you can kind of get an idea of how all 8 of them will kind of work together, as opposed to up here you only have one that you're really looking at. Um, Now, doing this also, you can kind of play with other things. You can add a layer below, and maybe you want to do, you can actually, I don't know, we can just throw another chase there or something, so you can kind of see a funky chase going out. And again, as you see it, it's applying to all 8 tombstones. If I had, the other good thing about this, and this is an interesting thing to point out, is doing it this way, you're only dealing with a single model. If you hand your sequence to somebody that has, say, 10 tombstones or 12 tombstones, it's not going to look right, because they may have, and your 4 of their tombstones is going to not have to be displaying anything. Or if they maybe only have 5 or 6, again, the time, maybe it'll only use the first 5, and then suddenly the timing is off on, because they're not displaying in the last 3. By doing the sequencing this way, you're actually more abstract. If their tombstones model only has, say, 5 elements, this chase will be, or like this chase would go just use those first 5. It would still look the same. Obviously, the resolution's lower because there's only 5, but it would still come out from the middle and go out. Or if you use a left to right chase or something, it would go from all the way to the left, all the way to the right, no matter how many they have in their tombstone. So it kind of makes sharing a little bit easier. It also makes file size a lot smaller, because this is one effect in your XML as opposed to 8 effects in your XML. Rendering time is lower because of the same reason. You have less effects that you're rendering, so it's a little bit simpler. Obviously, like I said, the main disadvantage is you don't really have the super fine level control over the exact frame each thing kind of turns on. There's a lot of math involved in doing some of the stuff, and there's floating point stuff, but you're dealing with a finite number of frames, so there's a little bit of rounding that's going on. So this may not be the exact I would say frame per pixel type display that you want, but that you may need, in which case you may need to drop down to doing this. However, by using the tombstones model, it doesn't preclude that. Like if I wanted this tombstone to come on right here, I can still do that because we allowed node level effects. So for the most part, for me, I never have these models as part of any of my sequences. I always just have the tombstones model, where I generally do bigger level effects that apply across all of them at this level. But if I do need specific tombstones to come on at a particular time, then I have the option of going down and using the node level effects. So if I actually bring up one of the sequences, let me just bring up Cha-Cha Slide. And yeah, I'll continue. Hit render. I think you can see the peak line. So I'm doing a lot of that. So when the Cha-Cha Slide, you have slide to the left and slide to the right. This is where I'm using chases across the tombstones, or if you have to do a jump, it's just an on effect and ramps. Um, there's certain areas where I want to do kind of just random data. Well, we have a effect for that called strobes. So they just kind of randomly turn things on and off. Uh, I don't have to go to each one individually. Now the thing about the randoms is each time it renders something different. But um, so it's kind of funky to watch, but it is there. And again, this is all. If you can see, it's doing a lot of stuff, but it's all on the entire collection of tombstones, not on each individual tombstones. Here's some interesting effects. I don't even know if people are aware that you can do some of these. There's the color wash effect. Allows you to specify just a part of the model that you want. So for like this one right here, we only want let's see, where's it going? So there's these percentages here. So for this one, the starting corner is halfway through, and then uh, the Y doesn't matter because single strands are basically 1 pixel high or 1 node high by however many long. So when rendering, my tombstones is 1 high by 8 wide. So the Y doesn't really matter a whole lot because we are only one tall. But then like I said, we're starting from the 50% or halfway through over to the end, or the bottom one. So whereas over here it's starting at 0 and going up to like 45-ish or something, just less than 50% works. So that's how you can kind of get effects on just parts of it. These are the double bounce to do the crisscrosses. So you have double bounce chases. Sorry about that. We'll get back to this now. I had to break, the doorbell rang. Um, as I was mentioning, the effects on the full model kind of gives you a little more control. It renders a lot quicker. Uh, you still have the node level control if you want to turn on individual tombstones or whatever you're doing. Uh, but by having a model that encompasses all of those the items that you kind of group together, it just kind of gives you a little extra flexibility that you may or may not have. You actually have different sets of models. So like this is the tombstones that have all of them. I also have a couple of floods along the front. Again, if you go back to my layout, there's these 2 white dots here are the floodlights. That kind of just provide some light for the tombstones, so you can kind of control those individually if you need to. My regular floods, I also treat them. I haven't converted a lot of these over from my HLS over to more model level, but it's roughly the same thing. I have 4 floods, and I can kind of model each one of or I can put effects on each individually, or if I want to turn all of them on as the same color, I can do that. These are RGB. Like I can bring up the where's the model properties for the floods. So if I bring that up, these are RGB nodes. These again here's another little hint for you. A couple actually hints that are interesting on here is 3 of the floods are on one side of the garage, so they're on universe 1. The 4th flood is over on the other side of the garage, so it's on universe 2. So you can actually use the new notation of like 1:40 for universe 1, channel 40, 43, 46, universe 2, or output 2, starting at 25. So a little bit different there. The appearance here is bigger. I use a nice big circle, use it a blended circle, apply some transparency to it. What that gives you is, let's see if we can select an effect here. You kind of have these like blobs that if you then show on the layout, you can kind of see these whitish areas here are those floods. So this is the right flood, which is way on the right side of the garage. For me, everything over here is universe 2. Everything over here is universe 1. Just the way the cables come out of the the garage on either side. Um, then I have like the pixel items along the roof for our different universes and stuff as well. But for the most part, it's 2 and 1. Um, so that's pretty much what I wanted to show you is that you can use a model or a group of models to kind of make things easier. You can apply things if you for things that you apply over a common bunch of things. Make a new model. It's a basically would be a single mod or a single strand of those various things. Name each node individually, and then you can kind of do the sequencing that way. Kind of like views. For in V3 we had the view concept, which we haven't quite ported yet, where you can this way you can kind of collapse things down. I'm not working on the floods, I can collapse them down. I'm not working on the tombstones, I can collapse them down. My mega pumpkin is the singing pumpkin, so I expand that out. This is because it's a singing element, all the nodes are individual, but if I'm not working on it, collapse it down. Uh, this is my pixel based roof line. There's a lot of pixels there. For the most time, I just can do that and leave it there. So I think that's pretty much what I wanted to show you. Sorry about the break in the middle. But hopefully this can kind of show you a little bit about how I've been doing some of my sequencing for my AC stuff without having to deal with individual nodes all the time, and so basically leverage some of the effects. Actually, there's one more effect that I'm going to show you just while we're here because it's kind of nice. I'm going to open my Monster Mash sequence. Second. When you open a sequence, there's a lot of stuff that's we don't render it immediately, so any effects that will generate like a background at rendering isn't there. But if you click on rendering, you're going to see a bunch of stuff appear now, or you should. There you go. So we suddenly have backgrounds that kind of see a little bit about what they do. When I was in HLS for these types of effects, I had to go through and do a lot of copy and pasting of okay, these orange things offset a little bit, going all the way down for 100 and some nodes, and it was just a pain in the butt. I did not enjoy it. These are actually the single strand skips effect, and if I zoom in a little bit, whoops, you can kind of see where it's kind of doing a semi-chase going down, but it's on very specific time frames. So it's 1/3 on, 2/3 off, 1/3 on, 2/3 off, and it kind of moves down. And then it gets to there, and then I have a second one that does it purple going on the way back. So depending on where it is in the song, it's another neat effect that you can kind of use to in your sequences, specifically for the single strands, like along the roofs and stuff like that. Um, I like that effect. If you do it well, you can kind of get it so that each one of these things kind of goes on a beat. So it's like beat, 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 beat as it advances, and then it works very well from a standpoint of being able to kind of feel how the sequence works with the music. But again, I'm not doing anything at a node level in here. This is all the effects on here are at the model level. So as much as I can do, I try to do it that way. So anyway, that's pretty much what I wanted to show you. Hopefully this kind of gives you an idea of how I kind of been working in X-Lights a little bit lately, and as I'm moving stuff from HLS over into X-Lights. Actually, there's another interesting one here that I just saw that I'm going to show you because it's here. This right here, it's a single effect, but its goal is it has a number of advances 0, so it doesn't move, but it allows us to say just turn on every third node. So 1, skip down, skip 2, going down. So and then if it doesn't line up right, you can kind of move the starting position up or down a little bit to say where it's going to start. So depending on where you need it, you can kind of control it. Like I said, the single strand skips is one of my favorite effects. The chases are kind of cool too, but the skips are kind of neat. So anyway, thought I'd show this to you guys and use it for whatever purpose you think would be kind of cool. Thanks.